Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRFBets race of the day for Saturday, February the 16th, race number 8 at Laurel. It's the Grade 3 General George Stakes for some hard-hitting older sprinters traveling 7 furlongs. Let's take a peek at this field. You can download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Majestic Dunhill, who is always a rock-solid turf sprinter for trainer George Weaver. They tried dirt, this track, this surface way back on November the 10th. Majestic Dunhill got a big pace, ran them all down, probably overmatched in the Malibu last time out. But there are worse 20-to-1 shots if you believe the pace is fast in the General George on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it should be. It should be pretty fast in this race. There's plenty of speed in here to set him up. We'll see what he can do, Dan. I sort of look at him, I realize his last 2 races are the top 2 speed figures of his career. I still think he might be a little bit better sprinting on the turf, but he ran well when he won the City of Light here. He did have a big pace. He got bumped at the start of that race, and then he finished best at the end. His Malibu, it actually wasn't a terrible performance. I thought he gave, Manny Franco gave him a great trip in there, the old in-out from off the pace, and he was actually even terms with McKenzie at the top of the stretch. No kicking with that horse, but this horse didn't run that poorly in that race.
The number 2 Home Run Maker was always a nibbler on the NYRA circuit, but this horse has found a home at Laurel. He has won his last 3 races for trainer Jeremiah Engelhardt, and his last race really resembled a gigantic move forward from a Beyer standpoint. He earned a 96 Beyer, and I love the way he did it. He sat in the pocket. The jock had a shot to go up the rail. He said, "Now, I'm going to alter this horse out," and he basically just hand rode him to the wire. That half-length margin of victory is a little bit deceiving.
I agree with that. So was the 3/4 length margin of victory 2 starts back, where he just, that was a dominant win for a horse who didn't win by a lot. I thought he did the same thing last time, and it was nice to see him finally get a figure too, because as you say, his form in New York, it wasn't terrible, Dan, but he didn't do anything that made you feel like he was going to be a stakes horse. All of a sudden, in his last 3 starts at Laurel over this track, he really does look like a stakes horse. His last 3 wins are all very good.
I think he can sort of trip in behind the speeds here. He has enough tactical speed to gain position early. Does it worry you, the 7 furlongs? I mean, Jeremiah has basically been intent on running this horse no further than 6 furlongs since the beginning of his 3-year-old campaign.
They tried to go longer with him early on, but you're right, they've mostly concentrated on shorter trips. You have to worry about the 7 for him, but it feels like he's going to be the right kind of a price in here if you like him to take a shot with.
It's such a wide open race. It's a good betting race. It's a horse that you can use certainly in multiple race wagers, and I'll be using Home Run Maker, and I probably will be using a little bit of the 3 uncontested as well. This horse was very briefly on the Triple Crown Trail. He won the Smarty Jones, a 2-turn mile over a sloppy track at Oaklawn, and even though he won that race, a lot of folks were thinking at the time, this is really a 1-turn horse, and they kept on with him, running him in longer distance races. They cut him back for a new barn last time out, and he speed popped the field.
I mean, he got right to the front in that race. There was no way to stop him from making the lead in there. He was just faster than those horses early, and he was loose up front all the way, never faced a challenge at any point in the race, and then just never let the closers into it at the end. It was a dominant win with a big figure. Can he get that trip in this race, Dan? Are they going to be able to keep up with him early? He's talented. I'm a little afraid of him. I just don't know how much I want to bet him, especially if he's sort of a lower price.
Perfect segue to the Timeform US pace projector, because our friends at Timeform US, they don't believe uncontested is getting close to the lead. He's the number 3 in this race, and they have him sitting 6th. And if that's the case, he might be in trouble. And if he's on the lead having a duel on a fast pace, he might be in trouble, because last time out he was able to get away to an uncontested early lead. But he's a talented horse to be sure, and he's coming off a 100 Beyer effort. The 4 is Colonel Sharp, who earned a 100 Beyer 2 starts back in the Dave's Friend Stakes at Laurel. He was then shipped up to New York for the Grade 3 Toboggan, and in that race he chased a very fast pace, I think, against slightly better horses, and solid wager the winner of that race came from last to first and benefited from the heat up front. So I'm not going to hold that race against Colonel Sharp. That Fig 2 starts back really puts him in good stead.
It does.
He handles the 7. Do you think he's going to be sitting 2nd?
No, I don't. I think there's faster horses than him, and I think that includes the horse to his inside, who I think is faster than him.
But he can rate.
He can rate. He doesn't need the lead. There are things to like about him, Dan. I don't know how much I believe the 100 figure. He got 2 starts back. We'll see about that. And last time, yes, he was contesting the pace in a race where Solid Wager closed, but he was contesting it with Skylar Scramjet, who wound up just getting beat for 2nd. He didn't really run that well last time. He's going to have to do better than that. you know, his recent form is fine. I don't like this horse that much in this spot.
5 is Mo Trouble, and this horse is cutting back slightly from a one-turn mile. We see Mo Trouble fairly close to the pace, and he opened up a clear lead in that mile race last time out, only to be run down by an old hard hitter named John Jones. We have a good formulator fact for Mo Trouble's trainer, Claudio Gonzalez. Over the past 4 years, with horses 4-year-olds and older making their third start following a layoff line and cutting back from route to sprint on dirt, 32% winners, a $3.53 return on investment. This horse has sort of middle distance speed. I think there's a possibility he gets outsprinted early here.
Yeah, I don't think he has enough speed to keep up with these horses early. I think when you start picking apart his form too, I mean, where's his really good sprint race? I feel like he's a little bit better mile and longer. His sprint form is okay, but it doesn't really make him a huge contender in this race. I guess he'll be a big price, though.
In some ways, the horse to beat is the number 6, Still Having Fun, who will be making his first start as a 4-year-old. He was in against McKinsey last time out in the Grade 1 Malibu. You and I were both stunned that this horse, basically a one-run closer throughout most of his career, was as close to the pace as he was in the Malibu, and they were going pretty fast. Kent DeZormo gave him a nice ride. He never moved off the rail. Still Having Fun ran quite well. He's going to get some pace in this spot. He's very logical. I'm not sure he has such an edge. I'd want to bet him as the 3-1 favorite, perhaps. He's 9-2.
I kind of agree with that. If he's going to be the favorite, he's definitely a horse I want to use in this race. I think the race will set up well for him. I just don't want to bet him to win. He could get a really good trip in this race. I like that he's shown a little more tactical speed as time has gone on. He doesn't need to be totally outrun, even though that's worked for him in the past in that Woody Stevens last year when he caught the huge pace and ran it down. He can get a better trip this time. He's a contender. I'm just not going to bet him to win.
I liked Lockheed's race 2 starts back when he won the Bender Memorial. He was rated back to trick the pace. He then attacked the odds-on favorite Lewisfield on the turn. He dug in to hold off Rockin' On By, who we'll get to in a little bit. I thought he was a cinch in the Dave's Friend, and on the turn it looked like he was sitting in a great spot behind the pace setters. He was just flat in the stretch, only beaten 3/4 of a length. He's been given a little bit of a break, and his tactical speed might have him in a great spot behind the pace.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing last time, but his races 2 and 3 back were both pretty good. I actually liked his DeFrancis, where he did sit a nice trip and couldn't get to Switzerland, but he was clearly second best. I think that was a good performance. If he can bounce back, he's a contender at a fair price.
Life in Shambles 2 starts back won the Grade 3 Fall High Weight Handicap, and for Life in Shambles to win 2 in a row for us, that's shocking.
I agree.
On paper, 10 for 42 looks like this horse is a veritable win machine. We know better that he's been mostly a nibbler throughout his career. Last time out in the Gravesend, recruiting ready to speed pop that field, and he really could never get into the race Life in Shambles. He does fit beautifully, however, at this class level. I think I've always liked him at 6 better than 7, but maybe the fast pace mitigates everything.
I agree with all that. I just like him better at 6 than 7, but we'll see what kind of price he is in here. You know, the thing is, Dan, he's got races that make him a contender in this race. I've just never been a big fan of his. He's not the kind of horse I want to be using in this race, unless he's some kind of crazy big price, which doesn't seem like he's going to be.
Number 9, It's Good to Be Us, is a horse that's got all the upside in the world. He's only started 4 times in his career. He sold for $650,000 as a yearling. He's by the great stallion Tappet, and he's going out for a big trainer in John Service. We got a nice formulator fact. Past 5 years, older dirt sprinters making their second start off a layoff following a win. 58% winners, 75% on the board, 526 ROI. This horse has beaten weaker company in Parks, but I like the way he did it last time out. It was his first start off about a 6.5-month layoff. He had to deal with a couple of horses early, and he always kept finding a little bit more in the lane. If he can build on that race, I think he can be in the mix. The question is, can he sit?
Yeah, what kind of trip can he get in this race, and can he take the step forward? Because clearly he's going to have to improve to beat a field like this, but he's lightly raced, newly turned 4-year-old. He could take the step forward that he needs to take. You know, personally, I don't love any of his races. I do think the last one he ran is the best one he's ever run. Can he go forward off of that?
The 10 is Do Share, and if you think Uncontested was impossible to catch last time out, once he opened up that big lead, then Do Share had no chance. The fact that Do Share was running on at the end of that race in his first start off an extended layoff, I think bodes very well for his chances here in the General George. If you believe Uncontested this time around will not be uncontested. There will be a contested pace, and we've seen Do Share run down fields in the past.
Absolutely. This horse got really good in 2017 for Linda Rice, and he carried that into 2018 before that long layoff. I thought he ran fine last time. He looked like he maybe got squeezed back early and wound up up last. I like the way that he was running on through the stretch. He couldn't get to uncontested, but not a bad place to start off the layoff. This race will set up a lot better for him. He's a pretty good horse.
Rockin' On By is another one-run closer that you can usually depend on to get a piece. He was second in this race at 14-1 in 2016. It's hard to knock any horse that's earned over $630,000 in his career, but he has finished second 23 times, third 13 times. He does not win very often, and he was the beaten favorite last time out. He'll be running late, maybe on the bottom of the Super.
I like him cutting back out of that one-turn mile into this spot. I agree. I feel like he's not the kind of horse you necessarily want on top, but I'll use him underneath that. I thought he ran well 2 starts back at 6 furlongs. He couldn't get to Lockheed on the lead. I like the way he was finishing at the end of that race, though.
Cordmaker popped a career best Beyer speed figure last time out in his final start at 3. He beat Rockin' On By that day. I thought he sat a comfortable spot in mid-pack behind the pace. He swung outside and he inhaled him in the last 1/8 of a mile. Again, that race was at a mile. I think he might be better at slightly longer distances than this 7, but again, a fast pace works to his advantage.
Right, and another new 4-year-old who needs to improve a little bit. Maybe he can do it in this spot, but I just feel like this is a little too tough for him.
Can Something Awesome still run anymore? If you believe he can, he is going to be very dangerous in this spot. He has banked almost $1.3 million. He won the General George in 2018, a multiple graded stakes winner last year, and 2 starts back was his first start off a long layoff, and I thought he ran quite well against the sharp Colonel Sharp because he was down inside. He ran on a little bit at the end, and I had hoped that they would run one more time sprinting and then run him here, and instead they ran him in the Pegasus World Cup, and that wasn't going to work at all.
No.
This is a more appropriate spot, and he does have figs, and I guess the setup's right for him.
Yeah, I guess you got to fill those spots in the Pegasus World Cup.
Especially when you own the track.
Yeah, the house horse they had to run him in that race. That wasn't the right spot for him. He did run well 2 starts back there. That's a race that suggests, you know what, he can still run. He didn't have really a fair chance in that race. He was making up ground all the way. 7 furlongs is a good distance for him. Obviously, he won this race last year when he had a big pace to close into. He and the runner-up came from last to next to last and closed it down, and he might get a similar setup here.
Formulator fact as well for trainer Jose Corrales. Past 4 years, older horses going second off the bench and cutting back from routes to sprints on dirt, 40% winners and a $2.80 ROI. The horse on the far outside is no slouch. That is Long May You Run. This horse has won 16 of 50 lifetime starts, 3 out of his last 4. His game is speed, and he just overwhelmed an overmatched field at Penn National last time out. Breaking from this outside post with horses like Uncontested and some of the others in here, he is really going to have to hustle to make the lead. But you will know him in the first quarter mile.
Yeah, I'm assuming he just breaks running and tries to wire this field. We'll see if he can do it. He ran big last time. This is a way tougher spot. He's got to do it at 7 furlongs with speed to his inside. A lot working against this horse.
Fun race, probably a spread race for the pick 4. Matt Bernier will have pick 4 coverage on DRFTV a little bit later in the week. Let's take a look at our top selections for the General George Stakes, your DRFBets Saturday race of the day. You've been impressed with Home Run Maker's last 3 races. It looks like Jeremiah's got him figured out, and he's just going to sit a nice trip in behind the speeds. He's also 8-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of price he is. I don't know if I even feel like 8-1's a great price on him. I would want more than that if I was going to bet him to win. I just like his recent races, and I think he's headed the right way and can get a good trip in this race.
You're going 2, 6, 13, and 3. I'm curious to see if the number 9, It's Good to Be Us, can show that much-needed improvement in his second start as a 4-year-old. I think he can live up to that pedigree and price tag for a good trainer in John Service. And let's say the 3 and the 14 lock horns. Maybe It's Good to Be Us will be sitting in a prime spot, turning into the stretch in his second start of the form cycle. I'm going to be picking It's Good to Be Us. He's 15-1 on the morning line. General George, the DRFBets Saturday race of the day, approximate post time 4 o'clock Eastern. Best of luck.